Not only is this year the 20th anniversary of Monster Hunter, but Tamashii Nations just announced 20th anniversary repaints of the most sought-after figures in the line. Check out the Monster Hunter SH MonsterArts figures at BigBadToyStore before you miss out in the description today.
Dragon Ball, horror, kaiju, and more. Steven's Toy Reviews.
Hey there, collectors, it's going to be Steven here, and welcome to another SH MonsterArts review, where today we are going to be taking a look at the SH MonsterArts Tigrex. You know which monster we're talking about here, right? This is going to be the one of the most iconic monsters in the franchise. If you mention Tiger and T-Rex to any Monster Hunter fan, there is something that is going to trigger like a Manchurian Candidate effect, and they are going to remember that most iconic roar through the tundra or the magma area, you know, whatever, because they keep changing the name, right? And it is going to be of this wyvern here, the Tigrex. Now, this rendition is supposed to be from Monster Hunter Rise. Sunbreak, maybe? You know what I'm talking about, despite the fact that they did include some accessories from his original appearance in Monster Hunter Portable Second Freedom 2, whichever you prefer. With that being said, there's some conundrum in the community because there have been some larger folks who have said that this thing is accurate and comes with everything that is needed. Well, yeah, at about $150 US MSRP, we are absolutely going to be taking a very close look not only at how the figure actually looks, but we are going to hold it to modern day standards and compare it to Capcom's official published 4K video of Tigrex in Rise and show you how it is not accurate. We're going to go toe-to-toe with some accessories that this figure should have come with and it didn't, and take a look to see whether or not it's going to be worth adding into your collection. Now, I know that sounds negative, but this may be the best Monhan SHMA so far, but it does come up short. Let me make it very, very clear here. I do believe that Tigrex does look rather nice, even though the paint application in terms of accuracy to what is in Monster Hunter Rise isn't one-to-one, pretty much by any stretch of the imagination. As a matter of fact, it's very clear to argue that it doesn't look close to accurate to anything except for maybe the color scheme to Monster Hunter Stories 2, I believe. That being said, again, we're focusing back in on the figure. If we take a look at the underside of Tigrex, which, you know, we'll take a quick look, the paint application is rather good and it blends in rather nicely. I do think that there is some shading and blending that is really, really solid. But when it comes to the actual main body of Tigrex, the top portion, and we have the stripes and the blue on the head, that pretty much throws all of those theories, those concepts, if you will, to the wayside because it's all just simply there. It's almost as if they used some sort of template where they colored perfectly in the lines. Like there's no sort of attempt to blend anything together. We just have very stark blue. We have a little bit of a gradient of an orange, but it is very bright. And if you're familiar with Tigrex, this isn't going to be a very clean monster. As a matter of fact, see, I'm keeping the theme with my Monster Hunter videos. I didn't break it. My most fond memory of Tigrex is absolutely going to be in 4 Ultimate, just like the trailer, and getting chased whenever I'm attempting to carve. Pretty much if he's going to be the invader, every single time he's going to be chasing me. And yeah, this one is not going to be pretty, especially when he's doing some of the stuff when we take a look at the accessories. Now, obviously, the paint application, the actual application in and of itself isn't really bad, except for when we take a look at the, I guess you may call them the shards, the shingles, the parts of the wings. Those kind of look like they weren't painted exactly at the same time. There's a little bit of a difference for what is used. Some have a better tan, some have a better purple, but nevertheless, everything is there. They look nice, webbing, so on, so forth. You get the point. The paws look really good on the wings of Tigrex there, and even going back to the hind legs. The eyes look pretty much fine, especially on the rage head. We're going to take a look at that as well in the accessory section. And then the tail tip, pretty much looks fine as well, no real concern. So again, when it gets to the core figure, pretty much the clean paint application is clean, but the issue is that Tigrex is not a clean monster, and when we take a look at the 4K model coming up in just a second, it really drops the ball. The underside of Tigrex is great, but yeah, otherwise it's fine, which is not something I should be saying about a US MSRP $150 figure. Now here is going to be from Capcom directly. They posted some spin-arounds, if you will, of 4K models from Monster Hunter Rise on their YouTube page. So credits to Capcom for this, and you can see right away this does not match up with the SH MonsterArts at all. Now, of course, there are going to be some details that the figure could absolutely not capture. Why? This is from the PC version of the game. There's no way that an action figure could absolutely capture every single small detail. The minutia could not be there at all. However, when we're taking a look at some of the blending, when we're taking a look at some of the dimples, when we're taking a look at how the blue should be on Tigrex's head, the eye color, that you can definitely see where I and other collectors are coming from in saying that Tigrex just doesn't quite look right when we're talking about accuracy, which I'm normally not an accuracy diehard. Of course, we can take liberties, but when you're going to be charging about that much and you're going to be saying that you're bringing in people who worked on the source material, and then we're going to talk about the accessories, this definitely falls flat. There's another point that I'd like to make here, but I will be holding my tongue. Again, when it comes to paint and the sculpt, and then we factor in accuracy, Tigrex, with that last point, is a miss. Now that we've got that taken care of, articulation and how well is our Tiger T-Rex going to move? Well, it's actually pretty great in this articulation area. However, there are a couple of things to keep in mind. When we combine it with the accessories, however, that's where things get a little iffy and questionable, and Tamashii Nations did drop the ball. So let's go ahead and break it down. The jaw, it opens and closes. The bottom portion is going to be on a hinge, so we don't really need to worry about that too much, but we're going to put a pin on that. We're going to come back. The top portion, the head, is going to be on a single ball joint. So it's going to have a peg with a ball that plugs in to the mouth area, right? Just like this. Now, I'm going to show you a picture in just a second on how everything kind of works. But that is also, I'm showing you how you swap out the top portion of the head for the Rage head, which, again, we'll talk about in a second. The tongue is actually going to be on a hinge, so the tongue can pop out. It does move up and down, so if you're worried, you can do that. So the neck is going to be on a system of ball joints here. So Tigrex's neck can move around very, very well in all sorts of directions and obviously can twist and turn. So if you're wondering how this all works, because this is actually very important, it's very similar to the Misusune that was released last year. Let's go ahead and throw up a picture there. So this way you can see how everything is connected. And this actually is important for the jaw, and I'll come back to that in a second. So you can see everything is pretty nicely done. Everything is actually really well attached, except for the jaw and the way that it is seated in. So let's go ahead and come on back so you can see that all the ball joints are covered up by these sleeves of the sculpt. So in the event that the top portion of the jaw, the head, gets popped off, there is a chance that the jaw may come loose and may need to get popped off. If that happens, dislocate this, pop the top portion of the head on, line this sleeve up, and make sure that the two pegs here are lined up well enough here, and the peg down here is seated here, and then pop it on. If it pops off for whatever reason, then you will know what I'm talking about, okay? All right, so the arms, we're just going to call these the wings, okay? They plug in on ball joints, so they can move around, no big deal, okay? We'll talk about the wing flaps, the membranes, the sheaths, shingles, whatever you want to call them, in a second. Okay, so where they plug into the body, they're on ball joints. Then we have the biceps, ball joints as well. So we get another point of articulation. Very cool. Elbows. These are actually on ball joints, but because of this sculpt right here, membrane, it does limit the movement. Okay. Then we do have the paws, the hands, ball joint where they plug in. Then we do have a ball joint here, which is very similar to Rathalos, but it's done a bit better. We have the toes, the fingers, whatever. These two outer ones are actually plugged in to this portion of the sculpt on ball joints. So they move around, right? And then this one feeds through here, plugs into a ball joint here, and then plugs in a ball joint here. Here's a picture for you on how all of that works. Yay! Isn't it great when something is very convoluted when it doesn't necessarily need to be? Yeah, okay, so it does tend to unfortunately get loose over time. Mine are kind of a crapshoot whether or not it gets loose, but c'est la vie, c'est la vie. Some it may matter, some it won't. Okay, so now for the wings, the membranes, the flaps, the shingles, whatever. We have the small one, which is closest to the body. That is going to be on a single ball joint, and that can turn and move around. So this way, if you're holding it wrong, whatever the case may be, that will actually move. And this actually does pop out. I've accidentally done that a time or two. This one is going to be on a hinge, so it moves this way and that way. The one that's going to be on the elbow, it feels like it wants to pop out, but it does not. Then we go to this nightmare, and I say it's a nightmare, this one in particular, because when we take a look at it in the accessory section, that's where it comes into play. So the big portion here is going to plug into the paw on a ball joint, okay? So it can twist and it can turn, and then we have this flap, which is going to be on a ball joint as well. Though it can twist and turn and sort of bob, effectively, it's just going to move like this, okay? It's going to be the same for the other one, and realistically, you can kind of tell here where I was talking about in the Sculpt and Paint section, the different purples and the tans and so forth. Yeah, okay. So main body, we have a system of ball joints here that allows Tigrex to kind of bend up that far, bend down that far, and rotate from side to side. So really solid movement here. Like if you want to get this guy bouncing off of walls, you can do that, no problem. Hips are going to be ball joints. No real issues. We do have this piece of the sculpt, which covers it up nicely. So if that gets out of whack, just realign it. We have ball joints here for the knees, the way they bend. Really nice. They can rock. We have the leg system continuing down here, which I guess this is technically the ankle. I don't know, but this bend, you know what I'm talking about. That's going to be on ball joint, 2 points. And then the little footsie here, that's going to be on ball joints as well. No real problems there. The tail, likewise. Ball joints, really nice. Look at that tail. Look at that tail bend. Very, very good. So when it comes to articulation, basically the only complicated thing is going to be the wings. That's pretty much it. The neck for Tigrex is going to be a little weird as well if something comes undone, but otherwise it's great. Tigrex moves very nicely. You can get him into a fun of awesome poses. Now comes the accessories, which the accessories are fine with what it comes with. Asterisk, pin in it. Yeah, all of that fun stuff. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and talk about the nod to his appearance. And that is going to be the longsword user that is going to be attacking Tigrex in the snow. There you go. So if you're not familiar with this one in particular, on the cover of the second Monster Hunter Freedom game in the US, Tigrex is what is known as the flagship monster, and he is being hunted by this longsword user. Yeah, so this is a cool knick-knack. Nargacuga came with a Rathalos hunter, but for this one in particular, in the instructions, it notes that if you leave this one standing for too long, it may warp over time. I think that may just be a simple warning, because I've had this one in my studio up for a while now. I don't even know how long. There's been no warping. So yeah, it's clearly just for that. Now, that being said, again, this is meant to be the Rise iteration. Yeah, I mean, this is a nice callback. Who really cares? But this is a knick-knack. Do we need it? I'll let you decide. Nice nod. Yeah. All right, so if you've ever hunted Tigrex before in any capacity, whether it's going to be this one, Brute, Molten, or any of the deviants, the variants in Frontier, whatever, you'll know you barely see Tigrex like this. And if you ever see him like this, it's because he's drooling and he's out of stamina. Because more often than not, you're going to see him enraged. And the enraged parts, the paint application is pretty much going to be standard for what we have for the rest of the figure, okay? Now, swapping the parts out is pretty simple and easy, but let's go ahead and take a look at the photography and the up close and personal shots, just so this way you can see exactly what I'm talking about here. So I can kind of sort of put my money where my mouth is, and you get a good idea of what it looks like. So the eye color does change for Tigrex just a bit. He gets a bit more orange. The teeth on the head looks a bit more consistent. And yeah, that's about it. The arm parts for Tigrex, I mean, it does look good. They actually did paint everything nice, well enough, and in the lines. Not a real big concern. Now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to show you in just a second how you go ahead and you swap everything together. But keep in mind that this is going to be the left wing part, okay? So I'm going to take this off camera, but just take a quick listen in, okay? All right, you heard that. You heard me snap this in. Now, we're going to have the other wing part, okay? Take a quick listen in. Okay, did you hear anything? Let's continue. So the way that you go ahead and you swap everything apart, like I already showed you for the head, is you go ahead and you actually pop the top of the head off, and then you just pop the new one on. Not a big deal there. It's not an issue. It's very simple to do. If you're afraid of any sort of part swapping, make sure that you just use heat. Hot water is fine. A blow dryer preferred. Some prefer to use a heat gun. For this one in particular, I already swapped out one of the rage parts, and I already put one of the wing shingles, the plates, whatever you prefer to call it, on. So the way that this works is that little front part, the blade, if you will, of the wing, the one that attaches into the paw, all you have to do is you have to pop that off, then you pull the arm off, okay? Like I said, attached by ball joints. So you pop it off and then you pop the new part on. Real simple and easy. Now, if you want to use the new wing part, so this way it helps to make his wings look a bit more cohesive and coherent and without gaps, you first have to pop that part into the hole that's going to be on his arm part, okay? Then, according to the instructions, and this is what you do, you pop in the wing part from the paw that you popped off, okay? You just pop that in. Now, the reason you do that is so this way it glides into the little crease that is on the new wing part, okay? Very simple and easy to follow. Now, the reason I wanted you to hear that popping is, as you can see, I'm kind of struggling with the left part. No matter what I do, I cannot get this part to stay in. I'm fiddling with it. We're a little while after I recorded this section. I've asked some other people. They can't get this either. So you don't have to do any modification to that front wing part. It's not supposed to change at all. You're just supposed to assemble it as it is. For the left one, I found success with taking off, as you can see here, that one portion of the wing that is supposed to be on a ball joint, but it basically goes up and down, and I could not for the life of me figure out why. As you can see here, there is a little indent that is supposed to accommodate for all parts of the wing, so you're not supposed to disassemble anything. However, as I was looking very, very closely at not only the rage part, but the standard part for the left arm of the wing, look at this. Do you see it? So what Tamashii Nations did, for whatever reason, this is not on the right wing at all. They did not fully form the ball joint, and there's like a little moat, if you will. It does not work, and I just simply cannot figure out what they were doing. So no matter pretty much what you do, this does not snap in. It doesn't. It won't, which is why I wanted you to listen, because you can get that. You can get that satisfactory pop, and when you put this part in, it works just fine. So for Tigrex here, the accessory, which I honestly don't really care for this, because as you can see here, like, even if you were to do this, that's fine enough. The accessory's kind of moot. This accessory is a failure. Like, who needs this? And I'm not like gonna do super convoluted photography here, because we're gonna go into another part, but I mean, I've already got a stress mark on the ball joint. So basically what we have here is we have a knick-knack, which, while appreciated, I do like the little longsword hunter. I'm sorry, the trip sword hunter. That's pretty neat and a throwback to something that is iconic to Tigrex. But we do get what is essential. This isn't even an accessory. This is like essential in a way. Tigrex has to come with this. If Tigrex didn't include this, this would be an automatic skip. This is essential. You need this. And these plates, these aren't needed at all. Like, it's cool that they included them, but here's the little divot. Yeah, like this is not needed in any way, shape, or form. You can get rid of those. Who cares? So basically, Tigrex only comes with one accessory that some may like, some may not. So Tamashii Nations really, really dropped the ball here. And considering the dense history that Tigrex has as a monster, and across all of the games that it's appeared in, because even though they'll advertise this as being from Rise, they include stuff that's not from Rise. It's very clear that they can pull from the source material. So, even though the following footage will be from Monster Hunter World Iceborne, here is what we can look at for Tigrex and what is possible. So, if you've played Monster Hunter, you know that you can chop off parts, specifically tails, I'm talking about, with monsters. So, first and foremost, what else could we have included? A chopped off tail part for Tigrex. It would not be difficult to include here. It's very simple to do. They could have done it, but they didn't do it, and it's rather disappointing that they didn't do it. Next up, Tigrex. If you know Tigrex, if you've hunted Tigrex, you know that Tigrex can throw boulders. He can
throw rocks through your windows, you dumb whore,
without any issues. If you're hunting this one, you know to dodge it. And not only because it's going to do damage, but depending on the kind of terrain that he's going to be on, he's going to be chucking possibly giant snowballs at you, possibly giant water balls, flaming molten rocks if he's on effluvial terrain. He's going to be chucking stinky boulders at you. That is what Tigrex can do. And finally, what Tigrex can do is his most iconic, his roar. Now, admittedly, that would need for them to make a very unique effect part, but, considering that they do so many other things for their monsters and for their different lines, Tigrex could definitely use some sort of accessory where you just open his mouth and you plug something in and he gets a roar. So, why they didn't include any of those things, I don't quite know. Now, if you are looking for other effect parts or you're looking for support stands, which I do think that Tigrex could have come with one as well, because he is known for kind of jumping around. He is known for climbing off of and bouncing off of walls. He could have gotten one. If you are looking for rock parts, there are Tamashii Nations effect rocks that you could get. Obitsu stuff, they're kind of hard to come by these days, but there are rock parts, which I have shown up here on the 360 spin. There are definitely aftermarket and third-party options for you. Something to keep in the back of your mind, however, is that Rathalos and Zinogre, it was very disappointing that they didn't come with their trademark attacks, effects, so forth. And just recently, they were announced to get a 20th anniversary repaint to come out towards the end of this year. And not only do they look arguably better than their original release, they come with a support stand and an effect part, admittedly more expensive. Just keep that in the back of your mind. Now here's a size comparison for you so you can see how big Tigrex is going to be. Is he going to be a gold crown, a silver crown for small or large? I'll leave that up to you. Quite frankly, I am just pleased to have this one in the collection. He's represented. I'm not going to throw a huge fuss about size. I will go ahead and leave that up to you. So, buy now, skip, or wait for a deal. Unfortunately, Tigrex is going to be inaccurate compared to pretty much any rendition of Tigrex in the main Monster Hunter lineup for any of the games. Whether it's going to be any of the portable games, any of the main series games, he just basically doesn't stack up to that grunginess that Tigrex basically achieves in every single game. But the paint application doesn't necessarily look too bad in and of itself unless you're talking about the wing webbing parts. When it comes to the articulation, he looks really, really great in pretty much any pose, and he can move very fluidly. But the accessories are basically null and void because he comes with his rage mode parts, which are going to be the only things that are effective for this release. The wing plates and the little hunter that he comes with, while cool, the plates basically don't work, because what are you going to use, 1 out of 2? Yeah, no, that's a failure. 50% is a failure, kids. And the hunter is a little bit of a knick-knack, which, okay, that's cool. For $150 US MSRP, Tigrex definitely could have been much better, and it just misses that mark. The figure in and of itself is actually pretty solid, and I do like to have it. It's great to have it up here on the review table, but if you're looking to pick this up, definitely temper your expectations. Don't temper Tigrex here. He's not quite that difficult here. Temper your expectations because, yeah, I don't think you're going to walk away that happy. This is going to be only for the diehards.